Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book The Rooster Bar by John Grisham. This is a standalone book by John Grisham. Grisham has been quickly climbing my favorite authors lists as I started reading him last year. Around this time, I have previously read 6 other John Grisham books. This is my 7th. So I have, and just to go quickly through them, A Time to Kill, loved it, amazing book. Then I read Sycamore Row, one of my favorite books of last year, and my favorite John Grisham book so far. Loved this book. Then I had A Time for Mercy, excellently well done. Then I had The Summons, which was, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It just, meh. Then I had The Litigators, which I loved The Litigators. Oh, this is like a high, like number 2 for me. This is such a good book. And then you have The Pelican Brief, which is a total departure for him. It's still got legal stuff going on, but it's more of like an action thriller than it is a legal thriller. But it's still a very well done book. So those are the 6 books I had read previously. And so the newest book I've read is The Rooster Bar. And I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe this is one of the newest books. I think it was like 2014, 2015, somewhere around there, that it was written. And this book is it's really focusing on the legal stuff. So, of course, that's every John Grisham book just about. But it has a twist, which makes it both fascinating and frustrating. So, all the other books I loved because there are these horrible, awful lawyer characters, these horrible, awful insurance people, these horrible, awful townspeople. Everyone's horrible, awful. But you have that one guy who is the excellent character. In the Jake Brigance books, you have Jake Brigance, who's like a pretty much an upright, moral stand-up guy. And in the Litigators, even, you have a moral stand-up character in David Zink, who's the main character, and he kind of gets pulled into this law practice that's kind of bad, but he's still trying to make the best of it. He's trying to be the moral character who's making the right decisions. He's trying to do what's best for everyone, the clients, himself, everyone across the board. And so he's a good guy. Like, he is, definition, a good guy. There is no good guy in the Rooster Bar. There is no good guy. You have 3 main characters. You have Mark, Todd, and Zola. And of the 3 of them, Zola has the most moral compass. But even she makes, and she kind of gets pulled into this in a similar way as to the main character of the other books. But in a difference is that she is complicit in everything, and she even has kind of a tainted moral compass, as you find out specifically at the beginning of the book, and then throughout the book, that even she's not the upright moral character. And then Mark and Todd, certainly not upright moral characters. These guys are awful. At the beginning, you just think they're just awful people, and then later on you find out, man, they're real sleazeballs. And so this book doesn't have a hero to root for, and as such, you're reading about these kind of villainous people who you want to see taken down. And it's, even though they're sympathetic, I will say they are very sympathetic. You understand why they're in this position, but they're still bad people, and they're still doing bad things with what they're doing. And so it's a very different dynamic, and it's super readable. This book, I just blazed through it in like a day. It was just, I started it last night as I'm recording this, and I finished it this morning. I just blazed through it. It's such a fantastic read. And of course, it's got, the great courtroom sequences. It's got some great interactions with other lawyers. It's got some great writing. The dialogue is great. The writing style is great. I will give it a lot of praise for all that stuff. The writing style, the dialogue, the plotting. As a plot, it moves super fast, and I was engaged and intrigued the whole time. All that stuff, I think, is really great. But the fact that it doesn't have that heroic character to root for makes it very difficult for me to look back fondly on the book, because I don't have that thing that brings me back. Maybe one day, 10, 20, 30 years in the future, I'll reread John Grisham books, and I'll have fun with this one because it's so different, because it doesn't have that lead character. But I actually feel like I'll find it more of a chore, because I want to read about good guys doing good things. I'm okay with you having a bad society, but in your book, as long as you have the moral character, the good guy who is like the main character that you can follow, who's really good, and this book just doesn't have that, which is very frustrating. I think that audiences will really latch on to these characters because of their situation, and the basic situation that these characters are in the Rooster Bar is these are guys and the girl who are all in college. And they're specifically in law school at this place called Foggy Bottom, which I always think about the West Wing and how the West Wing always makes jokes about Foggy Bottom. But they're at this college called Foggy Bottom, which is a for-profit law school that is just what we call a diploma mill, just churning out these diplomas to students who don't even deserve them. They're admitting basically anybody in who has no business being a lawyer, and barely anyone can find jobs after law school because they're such a terrible college. And so our main characters have taken out $200,000 in debt to go to this law school, and they have no job prospects during their final semester. So they have no job prospects, and they have no way foreseeably to pay off their debt. And to top it all off, one of the characters in the group dies, and so the others are their lives are thrown into a weird spiral, and they never escape that spiral. And so their solution is to set up a fake law practice above a bar. So the bar is called the Rooster Bar. They decide this bar has second, third, and fourth floor in the building, and they rent it out to be a fake law practice. And they try to hustle clients, try to get clients for simple things, even big things, but pretending to be lawyers the whole time and not get caught. And as such, these guys are kind of idiotic at times, and so they make a lot of mistakes, and so they're bound to get caught. And that's basically the plot of the book. And the themes that the book deals with are super intriguing. They really make you think. They make you really try to think about things well, and I appreciate that. But I don't necessarily agree with the messaging that the book results in. So the book makes you think about how the student debt, the student loan crisis that America has, where a lot of people go into debt to go to college. And, a lot of people are in debt. And I'll say, I empathize with the characters because I'm also paying off my college loans, so I have to deal with this as well. I don't have near as much as these guys do. I don't have near that much, but I still have a substantial amount in college debt, and so I feel the pressure about paying it off and things like that. But in this book, Grisham basically passes the buck of responsibility to everyone but the students themselves. In the book, the themes that it espouses, that the author espouses, are that it is either the government's fault for allowing so many student loans to be had, for opening them up so much, or it is the creditors' fault, the people who are going after trying to get the loans back. It's their fault for being too aggressive and too mean in their practices. Or it's the college's fault for not being a good enough college, for not helping the students be prepared enough. Or it's society's fault for allowing all of this to happen and not intervening sooner. But it is never really portrayed as the student's fault for not really working hard, for not truly being prepared, for slacking off, all these things. The students, were not necessarily, when they describe what they did in college, it's not just that their college didn't have great professors, it's that they didn't really take college seriously anyway. Sometimes they'd go to classes, sometimes they wouldn't. They'd skip. They'd just try to get a B just to get a B to pass the class. They didn't even try to actually learn. And so it becomes everyone else's problem but the person who took on the responsibility of the money. And they're sympathetic. It's a stressful thing having all this college debt. And also, there is an argument to be made that all of these systems that I talked about, the government, the creditors, the school, society, maybe changes can be tweaked in how we view schooling, how we deal with debt crisis, how we deal with paying off loans and things. Explorations can be had there, but when the book seems to take all the responsibility off of the main characters, it really just rubs me the wrong way and makes me frustrated with the book's messaging and kind of angry at John Grisham. But as you could say, I'm really engaged on this. I really thought a lot about this afterwards. So the book did its job. It made me think. It made me really curious about all this. I actually said, oh dear, I wonder where my student loans are at. And I actually went and get checked because this book brought it up. So I think that it brings up these issues that it needs to be brought up. I just don't like all of the answers that Grisham purports with the themes. There are also a lot of ideas about the justice system. And I think that while sometimes you have good characters in his other books, I think a lot of actual lawyers would point at this book and say, this is the type of book that makes us look bad. The type of media where we're all portrayed, all of the lawyers are portrayed as sleazeballs, as bad people, as just hustling for money and not actually caring about clients, not caring about actual justice being served, all that type of stuff. But I still think it's very fascinating. It's a very interesting way to describe the justice system. So I could see that there are some people who love the book because it prescribes the justice system this way and hate it because it describes the justice system this way. But I feel like it does a good job of evoking a reaction from the audience. So overall, I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was just a delightful, fun read, even though it is so depressing. And there's not really enough consequences to actions. And so I knock it a few points for character development and for messaging, even though for themes and for ideas and for plotting and action, it's actually a fantastic book. So it feels it's weighted a little bit down from some of his other books, but it's still a really enjoyable book. I had a blast. Of course, I read it super fast. I would not have read it that fast if it was boring. So it's super entertaining. So I really enjoyed the book. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Whereas the Jake Brigance trilogy, these books were all like 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. And Litigators was 10 out of 10. I gave Pelican Brief like an 8.5 out of 10. And then I gave the Summons like a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. So this one I didn't really care for, but the rest I really enjoyed. And I still really enjoy this. It's just not at the top of my Grisham list. But that's my review of the Rooster Bar. I had many thoughts, many opinions, many really strong feelings about the book. If you've read the book, did you feel anything like I did, or did you completely disagree with me about the messaging and about the not having a good main hero and all that stuff? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.